Tom Hopkins International presents Motivate Your Mind.
Hello, I'm Tom Hopkins. Thank you for joining me in what I'm sure you'll agree is a very informative program. Our goal as we go through this session together is to develop positive habits that will provide good, strong mental health during those times when we really need it. And for most of us, that's almost all the time, isn't it? Have you noticed today how everything we own is being insured and protected? How we have security systems on our homes, on our cars. Our possessions are insured. Our lives are insured. Our health is insured, and yes, even retirement. Our retirement plans are a way of ensuring we'll have the financial resources we need during our golden years. But there's one thing we're not protecting in many instances, and that one thing is our mental health. The mental health of a person determines not only their happiness, but their ability to cope with stressful situations, as well as to seek out opportunities to achieve high levels of accomplishment and success. Let's face it, we live in a very, very challenging world. The world is changing. And you know what? Change has a daily effect on all of our lives. In fact, it can almost have an hourly effect. And you know, we don't have many options when it comes to choosing whether or not to change. The world is changing with or without our consent. And if we want to stay with the times, we must learn to accept and adapt to change rather quickly. Granted, when change is forced upon us, we're likely to balk at it at first. That natural response is related to an innate fear of the unknown, being forced out of our comfort zone, where we know the outcome of nearly every action we take. However, our adaptability to change has a major effect on our survival. Survival of the fittest is the motto of all living things on our planet. This includes both physical and mental fitness, and part of being fit is being able to go with the flow on things we have no control over or cannot change. As an example, let's say that when you leave your home heading in a certain direction, you know you'll end up at your favorite shopping center or movie theater. But what happens when that route is suddenly under construction and you have to choose another way to get there? Your initial reaction will most likely be a brief moment of confusion. Then an alternate route will come to mind and you'll head off that way to reach your destination. Chances are that you'll experience a bit of frustration during the journey, traveling a route that's not as well known to you. However, you will have adapted to the change. How would you feel, though, if that alternative route now includes a detour through an area you are totally unfamiliar with? Confused, lost, betrayed by the powers that be who choose which roads to tear up? Would you be apprehensive, angry? Would your body be tense as you drive through unknown territory? What if you missed your movie because of the changes you've just encountered? You would probably be pretty unhappy and answer yes to having most of those negative feelings, because those are the normal mental and physical reactions to a thing we all know as stress. Stress hits us each and every day of our lives in some manner or another, and most of us handle the minor stresses of life in stride. We can, however, run into trouble when we face times of excess stress levels that are beyond our normal scope. I think you'll agree with me that this is bound to happen sooner or later in your life, right? Knowing this, your goal must be to have ways of handling excess stress at the ready so you can adapt to it rather than succumb to its negative effects. Succumbing to long-term or high levels of stress most often leads to an anxiety or even to a depression, which is all too common in our modern times. And to think that much of it could have been avoided had those depressed people recognized the damage being done to their systems by stress way back before they became anxious and depressed. If you ever do reach a state of deep depression, it's best to seek professional help. We'll list the symptoms of depression later in this program so you can learn how to recognize them in yourself or in others and get proper assistance. For now, we want to learn the skills and develop habits to keep from ever reaching the depths of depression. So let's nip it in the bud by learning to handle stress. You have three options when you start feeling stress or pressure. First, you can keep your stress bottled up. Being civilized human beings requires us to keep a lot of our tension bottled up much of the time. To a certain point, that's simply a matter of restraint and courtesy. Beyond that point, it's frustration and the fertilizer for physical complaints such as ulcers. Tension is the garbage of your nervous system. If you keep it bottled up, it'll soon rot and begin eating at your system. So, I don't recommend going with this option for long. Secondly, you could go the exact opposite route and let your stress spill out any way it will. The most primitive portion of your mind knows that you must eliminate excess tension and stress. Without control, though, you could release your stress in many unhealthy ways, including sudden outbursts of anger, withdrawal from others, overdoing it in the eating or drinking departments, or even succumbing to the temptation to take drugs to alter your physical and emotional feelings. So, our goal is to achieve the third and best way to handle stress, which is to dispose of your stress according to plan, the plan we're about to cover. Here are the components of a solid plan for stress relief. Our first component is so simple. It's something as children we did without thinking. As part of growing up, we've learned many wonderful things. But we've also unlearned some things that can be beneficial to us, especially in stressful situations. Think about a past stressful situation for a moment. When you talked with someone about it after the initial shock of the stress wore off, were you able to laugh or at least chuckle at some aspect of the stress? If so, you employed one of the best stress relievers of all times. Component number one, humor. In the book of Proverbs, it says that laughter is like medicine to the bones. In our time, medical studies have proven that a good old-fashioned belly laugh provides both mental and physical benefits. It uplifts your spirits, helps you get a literal breath of fresh air, and shakes out tense muscles. Whenever you encounter a stressful situation, keep in the back of your mind this thought: as long as I keep my sense of humor, I'll be all right. The key to relieving the negative aspects of a stressful situation is to start laughing as soon as possible. Now, make sure the time and place is appropriate so as not to offend others who might not understand what you're doing. In fact, you may have to get off by yourself before laughing at some situations that arise. But that's okay. Just put the practice of keeping your sense of humor into place. Seek out smiles, chuckles, and a hearty laugh or two every day, even on the days when you don't have an exorbitant amount of stress. Read the comics in the daily newspaper. Humor comes in books, tapes, movies, on the radio, from your loved ones, your neighbors, and even everyday events. If you could invest a day of your life consciously seeking humor, you'd be amazed at how much of it you would find. The key is knowing that humor surrounds you and to make it a part of your everyday life. Then, when there's an increase in the amount of stress in your life, you'll be ready to handle it, to seek relief through this wonderful thing called humor. In fact, I have a little saying: if you laugh during the day, every time anything goes wrong, anyone hurts you, anytime something makes you feel bad, you can be in stitches most of the day. Don't you agree? Component number two of our stress relief plan is to move. Move. Physical activity is also medically proven to reduce stress. Build some sort of physical activity into every day of your life. Notice that I said physical activity and not exercise. You see, that word exercise has been known to increase the stress level of certain people, and increasing stress is just the opposite of what I'm trying to do here. You see, some people have this attitude: when I think about exercising, I lay down till the thought goes away. Well, if that's you, then let's not make it stressful. In fact, there's a lot of funny things I hear people say about exercise. I was sent some of these, and we just talked about humor, so let's combine the two. Listen to this one. The only exercise he ever gets is jogging his memory, which I thought was rather clever. Or how about this for a little humor about exercise? I was going to start on my weightlifting program yesterday, but I wasn't able to lift the barbells out of my car. Or, it is important to remember when exercising, start slowly, then gradually taper off. Or I love this one. And think about it. Let this one sink in now. If exercise can help you lose weight, then how come you don't lose weight automatically just by carrying all that extra weight around? I mean, this is a way of laughing at it. Now, if you enjoy exercise, good for you. Having a regular exercise program truly is the best thing you can do for your body. If you're not one of those who enjoys exercise, let's just talk about physical activity for a moment. Studies have proven that those who just become more active, like taking the stairs, parking a bit further down the row in the parking lot, walking or biking to the corner grocery store instead of driving, gain almost as much benefit as those who still park closer, ride the elevator, drive everywhere they go, but invest some dedicated time in formal exercise. So, if the terms exercises and scheduling are stresses for you, don't think about it that way. Just become more active. Generally speed up the rate at which you make most of your normal movements throughout the day. If you're doing something that you've been doing for years, like walking into a building from your car, just pick up the pace a bit and move more quickly. Perform household chores just a bit more quickly. This not only increases your physical activity, but it gets tedious jobs done faster, so you have more time for things you enjoy. Movement, rather than draining you, actually produces more energy than sitting still does. Think about it. How do you feel after a long day of sitting, such as when you travel long distances on a plane or in a car? If you're like most people, you're tired, and it may even take a day or two of rest to get you feeling normal again. How do you feel after a long day of walking in the mall? Tired again, but not as tired, as if you've been captively sedentary. You were able to choose when and how much to move around, shaking off periodic bouts of tension or inactivity. So movement is good. If you do choose to exercise regularly by riding a bike or walking a treadmill, turn that time into what I call accomplishment time by listening to a tape, watching a video, or reading something good for you. Now, I personally ride an exercise bike. I've set up my bike with a reading stand, a television, a radio, and of course a speaker telephone. Now the reason for this, I can be listening to some business tapes, opening and reviewing my mail, catching up with my staff on the phone, or calling friends or relatives. It's almost like doing two things at once. And the time flies if you're mentally active while you're exercising. You can only start with 10 or 15 minutes, and you'll be amazed if you do this 3 to 4 times a week, how you get more energy, you'll have gradual good weight loss, and believe me, the time on my bike passes so fast because I've accomplished many other tasks as well as reducing my stress level through exercise. If individual exercise doesn't sound like something you'd stay committed to, you may join a club, take an exercise class, or join a team. Playing sports is great for you both mentally and physically. It requires so much focused concentration that you have to forget about all the other things in your life that are causing you stress, and at least for a while. You see, most people find it easier to stay committed to physical activity or some plan if they've also made a commitment to other people that they'll show up. So find some way to commit to making component number 2, movement, a part of your anti-stress campaign. Component number 3 is to take direct action if you're feeling stressful. Determine what it is that's causing it and do something about it. If you're in over your head on a project, take some time to break it down into manageable pieces. If you've made a commitment you regret, either get out of it or adjust your attitude about getting through it. Always remember you have a choice. Just as you can choose to do or not do something, you can choose how to think about it. In taking direct action to eliminate stress, there are many things you can do. Number 1, eliminate the if-only syndrome. Now, the if-only syndrome is when you say these things to yourself. For example, if only I had a better job, if only I had more money, if only I had more opportunity, If only I didn't have to drive so far to work or fight traffic. If only I had, say, a better spouse. If only we had better kids. See, the if-only syndrome is a tremendous cause of stress. It causes you to give yourself little credit for the good things in your life and blame everyone else for all the bad things. In its most powerful form, it also allows you to become a victim, but in reality, the culprit is no one but yourself. Many people suffering from the if-only syndrome are simply way too hard on themselves. They tend to be perfectionistic and never allow themselves to enjoy achievements without thinking, if only I'd done this or that, this accomplishment would have been even greater. In other cases, the if-only syndrome keeps you from taking full personal responsibility for yourself. If you are blaming something outside of yourself for not living the life you want to live, you need to go take a good look in the mirror to find the right person to blame. You see, you'll always be disappointed if you depend on others for things you must do for yourself. Every achievement earned is worth 10 given to you. What you become from earning your achievements is self-reliant, and that is the greatest achievement anyone can accomplish. If you find yourself saying, if only, stop yourself and change the sentence, either dramatically to the negative, so you realize how good you've got it, or turn it around completely to the positive. Instead of, if only I didn't have to work so hard, say, if only I didn't have a job at all. Or, I'm lucky to have a good job that challenges me. I'm up to the challenge and give it 100% every day. When you've earned the respect of the toughest, hardest to fool judge of your character, you'll truly be a winner in the great game of life. And that judge is you. Number 2, talk to positive people more. Always be on the lookout for positive people. Actively seek them out. I have a little saying, don't take advice or listen too carefully to anyone more messed up than you are. And I really believe we can all take that to heart. You see, positive people are gems in life's treasure chest. Allow their positivity to infect you, then spread it to others. Sharing uplifting, positive, fun moments with others goes a long way to uplifting yourself. You can be in touch with a positive person as easily as dialing the telephone. If timing becomes a challenge, go for email. You can keep a conversation going on at your convenience, and theirs quite easily with today's technology, even if you live at opposite ends of the world. Number 3 is one of my favorites. Listen to lively music. It's been proven that the beat of music can affect your emotions. Classical music can be relaxing, yet stimulating to your brain if you're trying to learn something new. Many students are taking advantage of this by playing classical music in the background as they study for their classes. To get up and get moving, go for something with a faster beat. When doing physical work or activity music, your body will often get into the rhythm of the music, and you can pace yourself according to it. Invest some time in recording a single tape with your most favorite get-you-going songs on it. Keep a copy with you in your home, your car, or on the job. If you feel yourself slumping, either physically or in attitude, plug in the tape. It will do wonders for you. This practice is setting yourself up with good mental input. Another option is to turn your car and home into classrooms. Learning something new stimulates positive responses in your brain, which then sends a positive message throughout your entire body. Pay attention to what you listen to. Please never forget, your local DJ isn't interested in your mental health. Listen to books on tape from the library. Invest in audio courses. Remember, it's for your mental health. Number 4, program yourself tonight for a great day tomorrow. Take a few minutes before going to bed each night to set the stage for having a great day tomorrow. Think through how your best tomorrow would go. Then relax and go to sleep. Your subconscious will feed on whatever you think about before you go to sleep, and you'll awake ready for the great day you've envisioned. Another idea here is to read something positive just before you go to sleep. Keep a book of positive sayings handy and find a pertinent quote each and every day. Try subscribing to websites that offer a positive quote of the day that you can access as soon as you turn your computer on each morning. Number 5, work on this one. Stop putting yourself down. Start listening more carefully to the conversations you have with yourself. You'll probably be surprised at how much negativity you've allowed to slip into your habitual thinking. You see, negativity can be a habit, just as anxiety and depression can become habits. Your body becomes so accustomed to feeling anxious and depressed, you no longer pay attention to what you've done to yourself. It gets to where anxiety and depression feel normal to you, and you automatically disregard any positive input you receive. You say things like, gosh, I've always been this way. Or, I just can't change. Or, I'm just not happy. Please never forget, most people are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Believe me, that habit of thinking negatively can be broken easily once you recognize that you have it. You simply make a conscious effort to replace that negativity with something more positive. I know that you're a wonderful human being. You have tremendous untapped potential. Now you just need to believe it for yourself. Now, number 6, uplift others. Seek opportunities to make someone smile or feel good about themselves and what they do. Sincerely thank them. Give them praise. How fun it is to see their reaction to it. You will walk away feeling as good as they do. Giving confidence to others through positive input is a great self-confidence builder. And building yourself up is a great way to overcome stress. What happens when the majority of the stress in your life comes from other people? When you know that the cause of your stress is other people, you've got to try to stay away from those people as much as possible. Just as you wouldn't purposely expose yourself to nasty germs, don't allow yourself to become infected with their negative emotions. Those emotions belong to them. You don't have to take on that load. A bag full of pessimism and negativity is a pretty heavy burden to bear. It may be a little tough to get away from them, especially if they're family members or neighbors or fellow associates at work. What you can do, though, is get away from their attitudes. When you know that you'll be spending time with someone who is negative or pessimistic, give yourself a shot of optimism. As an analogy, think of the value of getting inoculated against the flu each year. The extra effort of going through the process to get the shot is likely to keep you from lounging in your pajamas for a day or two feeling miserable. Now, if you're not careful about protecting yourself from the negativity of others, you can suddenly become a pessimistic person without even realizing what a profound change your thinking has gone through. Keep in mind that negative people often don't realize they're negative. They think they're realistic and everyone else is messed up. In my sales career, I went through periods of intense activity, which meant that I would have a lot of challenges and pressures to cope with. I remember going to the office, and I would walk in knowing that there was piles of messages with lots of challenges, and lots of it was negative. I also knew that most of those messages would be challenges I had to take care of immediately to keep my clients happy. Now, my fellow salespeople would know when I had a bad day coming, because back then we often took messages for each other, and they would have taken some of these challenge messages for me. Since I was known in the office for being Mr. Positive, they'd often lay in wait to see how I would handle situations like this. So before going inside, I had a little talk with myself. I'd say this: Hopkins, do not allow them to see you feeling down. Don't give them that satisfaction. This is the greatest day ever. Why? Because lots of people are trusting me to solve problems for them, and they have their important money riding on my ability to cope with pressures and get the job done for them today. So go in there smiling and give it all you've got. And of course, then I'd walk into the office, and all the people that I term neggies, meaning negative people, all the neggies would be watching. And I'd just smile and holler out at all of them, "What a beautiful morning, isn't it great?" Then I'd smile my way back to the telephone and conquer one message at a time. I advise you to come up with a trigger to help you put on some optimism before engaging in conversations with someone who causes you stress. For some people, a slow, deep breath does the trick. For others, mentally putting on armor does the trick. Yet others picture the negative person as being very far away from them, in essence, keeping their distance, so their negativity dissipates before ever reaching them. I had a little game I used to play, and it may sound silly, but it worked for me. Whenever I knew I was going in to be with a group of people that I knew were negative, I'd play a little game called the zip-zip game. I would take my right hand, and I would pretend like I was grabbing a zipper, and I would go zip up to the top. Then I would take my left hand, and I would go zip up the other side. Then I would say to myself, I am now in my positive shell, pretending that I'd zip myself into a shell that would block all the negativity that people might try to pass on to me during the day. It really worked for me. It was a fun game, and it helped me keep my attitude through stressful situations. You see, whether it's a movement, reciting a positive phrase, or listening to uplifting music, find something that works for you to consciously put yourself in a positive state of mind. Now, we've covered some great ideas to implement into your stress-busting campaign. I'd like to put you on the lookout for the causes of anxiety so you can recognize them before they hit you, or at the very least, before they can do any damage to your psyche. Stress, anxiety, and depression are most often caused by these things. Number one, disappointments. When friends or family members don't fulfill promises, you can't take it as a personal affront. No one should have to live up to anyone else's expectations. When you're disappointed, take a moment to grieve over it, then move into one of your stress-reducing activities to help keep you from dwelling on it. Number two is this thing called rejection. Learn to accept rejection as just part of life. Work to not take it personally. That person who rejected you, either you don't know them now or they have forgotten about it. So why let it continue to bother you? You'll just be keeping negativity alive by doing so. Number three is expecting too much for too little, which I mean by that, having unrealistic expectations is guaranteed to put a dent in your happiness. So don't let that happen. You see, when you have a burning desire for something, invest some effort in thinking it through and planning how it should come about, rather than keeping it as an unfulfilled hope. Once you get into this plan, you'll quickly see how realistic the dream may be, and hopefully prepare yourself to either achieve it or leave it. Number four is conflicting goals. In other words, wanting two opposing goals at the same time. For example, setting goals to spend more time with the family and then achieve more in business. This is asking too much of yourself. No goal is worth risking your mental health over. Be extremely careful about maintaining balance, and this stressor shouldn't become a challenge for you. Number five is illness. If you're ill, it's tough not to be depressed. Who would enjoy illness? If you've been ill, do your best to get back on track. Eat right, get plenty of exercise, and occasional breaks from your normal routine. Number six is making unfair comparisons. If there's someone else in your life who constantly makes unfair comparisons, that can be draining on you and somewhat stressful. If you are that person, learn to stop those thoughts of envy or jealousy and replace them with focused actions on what you want, not what someone else has that you don't have. Hopefully, you're beginning to realize where your personal stress and anxiety is coming from and are preparing to cut off the negative impact it has had on your life, at least with those things you can control. It could very well be that those other people who bring stress into your life are suffering from anxiety and depression, and need help, like the advice we've been covering on this program. Hopefully you're beginning to realize where your personal stress and anxiety is coming from and are preparing to cut off the negative impact it has had on your life, at least with those things you can control. It could very well be that those other people who bring stress into your life are suffering from anxiety and depression and need help, like the advice we've been covering on this program. If you or someone you know has any of the following symptoms, take a serious look at the situation and get help as soon as possible. Find someone to talk with or be with, someone that cares for you, someone that could be a loved one or a friend. The symptoms of depression you must take very seriously. They are, number one, loss of affection. You can't seem to tell someone you love them, or you have anger always under the surface. You start avoiding people. Number two is habitual pessimism. Now, we all have days where we're a bit down, but we let it take over and dwell on the negatives. We're just allowing ourselves to sink into depression. Number three is sudden weight loss, which means there's no satisfaction, even with meals. Number four, concentration on trivial things. In other words, majoring on the minors in life, nitpicking, attacking about little things. Number five is drug use, changing or altering emotional stability. Number six is apathy. Nothing excites you. No excitement of creation. Number seven is compulsive eating or drinking. Your only satisfaction comes from food or drink. Number eight, difficulty laughing. Gosh, if you've lost the humor in your life, work on it, search for it, put it back in. It's so critical for mental health. Number nine is difficulty sleeping. You either can't get to sleep or stay asleep. Now, recognize any of those symptoms. If you have any of them yourself, seek out help. If you see them in others, encourage them to get help by implementing the activities in this program. I sincerely hope you will never face a serious depression. You do have the power to strengthen your mental health beginning right now. All it takes is to start paying attention to the input you are receiving and then doing something about it. One of the most important concepts I've ever taught is that the one thing that separates the average from the great in business and in life is the desire they have to be happy and to succeed. After years of watching my students and other successful people achieve greatness in their lives and careers, I must tell you that I've amended my thoughts on desire being the key. Desire is very important. However, there's another D word that is even more critical. The word is discipline. I'm going to ask you as part of this whole process of working on your mental health to begin working on your self-disciplines. And you can take these 5 Ds to the bank. Desire without discipline leads to disappointment, disillusionment, and depression. So let's get disciplined about our mental health. So I'd really like you to begin working on your self-discipline by controlling your thinking, eliminating the if-onlys, working on the exercise. Self-discipline will allow you to create strength, which will help you to overcome the anxiety and stress that most people suffer from. There's only one thing you have to control to be happy, not the people around you, not your environment. The thing you must control is your thoughts. Do you realize that most people don't even think about what they're thinking about? Start the process of controlling your thoughts. Everything you say, think, or do gives you a boost toward optimism or a shove toward pessimism. When they're repeated thousands of times a week, even the smallest boosts or shoves add up to a powerful force in your life. So learn to emphasize the positive. All we've talked about in this program is to help you protect your mental health. Implementing the ideas on this tape will help you build an image of yourself as a winner in the great game of life.